Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about my experience going from an OBGYN for years to converting to a midwife practice for my yearly wellness visits. I did end up using that same midwifery practice when I got pregnant and gave birth, but this is strictly about the yearly visits. I started going to an OB when I was 16 years old. At this time I was having really heavy periods and I just needed some help because they were really heavy and like 2 weeks apart, okay? It was every 2 weeks I was having a period. It was exhausting. I felt very sick. It was not a fun time. So I just started by going to the gyno that my mom and sister had went to because obviously I had no other idea. This was a man, and I would say that if I had a daughter, I would definitely go to a woman first. It just felt kind of uncomfortable as a 16-year-old with no other gynecological experience, having a man do that for the first couple times. They did everything the way that they were supposed to. They had a woman in the room present with us. It was none of that, but it was just uncomfortable, like I said. Within the couple years that I was with his practice, I did end up having some issues that I may expand on at another time, but the way he handled those issues was not great. He wasn't experienced in these issues that were very real at the time, and I basically self-diagnosed myself. I was correct, and I ended up finding a different OBGYN that specialized in this condition, so I ended up going to her after my experience with him for, I think, like 2 or 3 years I was at his practice. So this OB was super helpful when I transferred to her for a specific condition. It was really, really helpful to have someone that actually knew it existed and was super understanding and all that kind of stuff. And so I stayed with her for probably the better part of a decade. She really did help me for the primary reason that I was going to care for her. But then I did have my regular yearly visits with her. The thing that I didn't love is every year she would keep pushing me to get an IUD, and I was very against getting one. Now, yes, I was very nervous to get pregnant. I did not want to get pregnant before I actually wanted to. I was in my early 20s. I was not very established yet. Financially, it wouldn't have made sense, and I had big dreams for my business that I was happy that I was able to focus on throughout my 20s. So this was a big reason she kept pushing an IUD, because she was like, you only have to worry about it every 5 years, and you don't have to worry about getting pregnant. You don't have to double up on contraceptive anymore. It's just, you'll be fine. But it was something I just really didn't agree with. I did not like the idea of this foreign piece of object being constantly in my cervix. And I had heard all the stories of people getting pregnant anyway and having complications. I also had a lot of issues with different birth control pills and migraines and everything, and I wasn't really sold on the fact that magically I wouldn't have issues from this hormonal contraceptive. So I had tried a lot of birth control pills throughout the years, but she just never let up on trying to push me into an IUD. So finally, I think it was a couple years after I got married that I ended up switching to the midwife practice. And at this time, my last visit with her, I actually did start to talk to her about, a couple years down the road, we are thinking of trying to have a baby. And at that visit, she was nice, and she even said, book a visit with me before that so that we can kind of make a plan and all of that kind of stuff. Well, that never happened because I really just decided to take the plunge, switch to the midwife practice, and I'm really glad I did. I think the biggest takeaway from switching from an OB to a midwife practice is I felt much more like a person. I felt much more like I had bodily autonomy. I never felt pushed into anything that I didn't want to do, and it really truly felt like I had more control over my body and that what I had to say was important. Around the time that I had first switched to this midwife group, I had my first appointment, and it was a really in-depth appointment. I had a list of questions because I knew I had wanted to start trying to get pregnant, I think a year and a half later, okay? I had a very specific timeline. And it seemed like it was premature, but I just wanted to feel secure in this decision. Because again, for so long, I was just kind of settling for this is fine, but it wasn't really something I was comfortable with. So the first big difference is I didn't have to wear a gown the entire appointment, okay? I was in my regular clothes, just sitting there, talking to the midwife and talking to them like a person, and just not feeling so exposed. I only had to put on the gown for the examination part, and even that took 5 minutes tops. It was a very quick experience. Secondly, I really liked that their questionnaire talked about health from an overall standpoint. So it wasn't just about your nether regions. It wasn't just about your physical health even. They wanted to know about your social health and your emotional well-being and all of these details that it made such an impact for me. It made such an impact for me because at this first appointment, it was about a month after I had lost both my mom and my best friend in my life. Now, they didn't pass away. I don't mean lost like that, and that arguably makes it more complicated. But I was really in an emotionally vulnerable spot. And I brought this up during the appointment, and the midwife just empathized with me and validated me and made me feel so seen in that moment and so valid and important, and I just will never forget it. So I thought that was really incredible that they see health as a whole body kind of thing, including your brain, including your heart, including all of that stuff that the Western medicine side doesn't always look at. I also liked that going to a midwifery practice aligns with where I have been going these past few years anyway. I switched to a naturopathic physician back in 2017, and it basically changed my whole life. It changed the trajectory of how I view things, what I eat, what I do or don't do, like all of the things. And it has just been life-changing. And so the midwife model definitely goes along with that more than the OB model. The OB model goes a lot more with the Western medicine side. So it just all kept aligning. And then lastly, when I was talking to the midwife about all of my questions, which I will not forget, it was plentiful, she was the most patient. She talked to me like I was the only patient she had that day. And I know they're busy. That is so monumental. That not only because I was going through an emotionally vulnerable time, and I was also physically really nervous because I wanted this change to be worth it and I didn't want to go through traumatizing experiences. But that's just life-changing to have an experience like that when you are going into an appointment that is very vulnerable. I don't know anyone who actually likes these appointments, looks forward to them, wants them to happen. So it's life-changing that something like this, I was just seen again as such a human. And that's what I can really say about the midwifery model is you are a complete human with bodily autonomy and choice. And that is so huge. And then, yeah, I ended up having my baby with them. And although complications happened, which if you want more info on that, you can click the link below and somewhere in here to view more about my birth story. I went in great detail about that. Although things went sideways because birth is unpredictable, I felt very well taken care of during my pregnancy with them. Every concern that I had, they responded quickly and empathetically. And I was never labeled crazy or overthinking or all of that kind of stuff. And so it just went even deeper, that like relationship through pregnancy and birth. And postpartum, as midwives, it was not simply you get a 6-week checkup and then bye. I was monitored so closely within those 6 weeks, multiple times. And I remember that she told me that during my pregnancy that it wouldn't be, even if I had a smooth sailing, perfect pregnancy and birth, it's not just a matter of, see you in 6 weeks, okay, cool, bye, you're good to go. They really do care how you're actually doing in that very delicate time. So before I had spoken with my friend who is a doula all those years ago, and she had informed me that a midwife can actually treat you yearly and have your regular checkups too. It doesn't have to be with an OB. I had no idea. And so my whole world opened up when I explored this opportunity. So if you are curious about switching to a midwife for your yearly care, even if you don't plan to have kids at all or ever, or you're past that age or whatever, I definitely suggest looking into the midwives in your area, the practices, and giving it a shot because largely I hear that they are all similar experiences to what I had. I don't see that I would ever change practices again at this point, but I definitely do not see myself ever going back to an OB over a midwife, even if I did. I hope this video was helpful. Make sure to subscribe for more mom content like this.